Friday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, and we are here to inform you, enlighten you, and entertain you. Not necessarily in that order, but we're here for you. Amadeus, it's good to be with you. This, I don't think we've had a week since, say, maybe 2002 or 2003 when we've had so many games that have matched up teams within the AP top 25. I mean, it's just, last week we didn't have many at all. This week, it seems like every game we play is a meaningful one.
Yeah, it's great. It's exciting. Obviously a lot of the conference play is starting in for some
Hmm.
of these teams, but yeah, I think it really speaks to the competitiveness in college
Hmm.
football this year.
The depth. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just get started. Jump in there. We'll start with tonight's games. Friday night games. Wisconsin Purdue. You're talking about. That's a Big Ten game. That's 7 o'clock. Timmy Brando, Spencer Tillman have that action. They will be in West Lafayette, Indiana. NC State, Virginia. Again, there's another. That's an ACC game. Amash Sharaf and Andre Ware, along with Paul Carteretta on that one. And then we go to the Mountain West for a 10:30 game on CBS Sports Network, and that's Boise State at San Diego State. So some evenly matched teams in all three of these contests for tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, all of those are conference games as well.
Hmm.
So, getting the Friday started off with a bang. I find the NC State Virginia one very interesting, obviously,
Hmm.
because you have Brendan Armstrong going up against his former team there.
Right.
But this is an interesting spread, actually, because it opened at 9.5 for NC
Really?
State, and it's down to
Hmm.
7.5 now.
Wow.
And, I never really buy into the angle of, oh, the quarterback's going against his old team because, just because I'm sure Brennan Armstrong wants to beat Virginia so bad, there's about, 30 plus guys on Virginia who want to beat his ass in this game too.
Right.
So,
Goes both ways. And it takes a lot to move to a point spread 2 points. That's that definitely is a very important thing. We have one more game tonight. Didn't fit on the card. So Air Force San Jose State, another Mountain West. That's an FS1 game. Dan Haley. Good to see Danny getting behind the mic. He's most of the times folks know Dan from the NFL Network. And another buddy of ours is Petros Papadopoulos. Very big in LA. He's does the drive time on Fox Sports Radio in Los Angeles. So two pals there doing the Air Force San Jose State game. So there's a there's a game. Air Force seems to be again a solid team this year. San Jose State, they've had their ups and their downs, but we'll see how that game shakes out later tonight. So you got two 10:30 games. You can have your choice. You can both of them are Mountain West, Boise State, San Diego State, and then Air Force and San Jose.
yeah,
State.
that's another one, Jim, that's had a ton of line movement. Air Force opened
Really?
up as a 3.5 point favorite, and they're 6.5 points right now.
Wow. Wow. So they moved 3 points.
Yeah, they
Hmm.
moved from basically, slightly more than a field goal to basically a touchdown now, and I think it's a bit deceiving just because
Uh huh.
they're playing their first road conference game here.
Sure.
Obviously, they got the big conference win last week against Utah State, but
Hmm.
I don't think that was the real Utah State that showed up last week. It was one of those games where Air Force came out with a strong first drive, put a touchdown up on the board, and before Utah State could even respond, they started with the turnovers, interceptions, fumbling the ball right on like the first few plays there,
Hmm.
and that really put them in a hole for the entire game. Obviously, they started to come back at the end and play a bit better once they put
Hmm.
Hillstead in, but. Yeah, I think it was one of those games that's a bit deceiving. Now Air Force is going to have to play on the road against a tough San Jose State team. I know you liked this team coming into
Hmm.
the season, Jim. And San Jose State's going to be at home here. And say what you want about them, but they've played some tough teams in their first few games. They had that big game against USC, and they
Hmm.
the most points on USC all season because obviously, the other two teams USC faced made their defense actually look good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, San Jose State, you got to give them credit. They played a tough Oregon State team
Yeah.
last. I believe it was Oregon State.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they've had some tough competition so far, and I think
Yeah.
if anything, they're more battle tested than Air Force is.
Right. The P5 schools. And if we one thing we can say about the Mountain West, and they are, it's very few Mountain West teams win on the road. I don't know why, but that's just the way it seems to play out. It's that stadium that San Jose State plays in. It's Spartan Stadium. It's about a 25,000 seat place, but the place is rocking. It's on campus. They all come out for a nice evening to watch football, and they represent. So we'll see how that goes from that standpoint. All right, now we're going to go to Saturday, and these are the noon games that I picked because they seem to me to be the most entertaining. But here we go. All right, Florida State Clemson. That's a noon game on ABC. Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy on the call. Oklahoma at Cincinnati. That's the first Big 12 game that Cincinnati is going to ever host. That's on Fox with Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt. Auburn and Texas A&M, as I like to call that one. That's the Jimbo Fisher, are you going to get fired game? Bob Wischusen, the call with Robert Griffin III. Let's start up at Florida State and Clemson. That's basically the ACC championship game, right? For all intents and purposes, in in a conference game right there.
Yeah, this is a massive game for both of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you have the number 4 ranked Florida State.
Right.
They have had a lot of points to prove coming into this season, and so far they've proved them. Obviously, they had the big upset win over LSU in that first game.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to be playing on the road though in the conference, and they're going up against a good Clemson team. Now, Clemson is not what they used to be, but
Mm-hmm.
they still have a lot of quality talent there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I believe in Cade Klubnik though. Last year I was begging for him to come on the field over
Right.
DJ, and now after watching him in these first few games, I don't know if he's the answer for this Clemson team either. But yeah, definitely for whoever wins this game, it's going to be massive, obviously, because Florida State's looking to be the best team
Mm-hmm.
in the country, and they want to keep that status. So a tough road conference win in Clemson would look very good on their resume, along with that LSU win already. But if Clemson, they already got a loss to Duke under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
So they need this game. They not only can they not afford to lose another game all season, but if they beat the number 4 ranked Florida State team here, now obviously that'll depend what Florida State does the rest of the season after.
Sure.
That. But
Mm-hmm.
that puts Clemson in a much better position than they are coming into this game if they can pull off the upset
Yeah.
win here.
It's tough to play. Again, there's another Death Valley here. There's two Death Valleys. One is Clemson, the other's LSU. It's tough to play there. There's 94,000 people, and it's loud, and it is, it can be disconcerting. Florida State has played in those situations. It's basically a philosophy situation where you've got FSU's coach Mark Norville really worked the portal to get some star players. Dabo Swinney at Clemson, that was not his MO. He gets 4 and 5 star athletes to come to Clemson and doesn't believe in the portal. So we'll see from that standpoint how it plays out as well. So interesting game. Oklahoma, Cincinnati, not as much interesting as it is Cincinnati's first foray into the Big 12, and they got a number 16 Oklahoma team, which would like to be number 14, 13, 12, or higher up on that list. So Oklahoma goes to Cincinnati to play that game. Should be an entertaining game, but it's the first game, as I say, that the first P5 game that Cincinnati's playing in the conference. So from that standpoint, it could be entertaining. And then Auburn at Texas A&M. it's it's silly to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is kind of a must-win game for Texas A&M. I mean, they're at home. Auburn didn't really look that great in the game against Cal last week, but you know, Texas A&M hadn't looked good in a couple weeks, so I don't know. They lost to a Miami team they shouldn't have lost to, and got beat pretty bad, and Miami hung some points on them. So I don't know about that one. That's a game that I am clueless as to what to think, other than I jokingly said it. You know, they may have to spend $95 million to get Jimbo Fisher out of there.
Yeah, so this one's a really interesting one, obviously, because you have the Hugh Freeze offense is finally going to be
Right.
tested. We've seen them in a few games now. They looked good against UMass and the FCS team they played. I think it
Yeah.
was Samford, but
Right.
that's not going to move the needle when you're only scoring 14 points on Cal. Now Cal does have a good defense, and that
Mm-hmm.
was a game where they had to travel. And Cal is a very good team when they played at
Mm-hmm.
home. We're talking about a team that went 4-2 at home last year when they were garbage,
Right.
and now they've picked up some Power Five talent in the portal. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I don't fault them, but this is going to be a big test for them. On the road again, first game in the conference now. Texas A&M, I'm not sure about that defense. Obviously, they held Louisiana Monroe to 3 points, but I think me and you could go out there and hold Louisiana Monroe to 3 points, Jim. So
Maybe.
so yeah, I'm not so sure about this Texas A&M defense yet. Their offense has looked good though, even in the loss to
Yeah.
Miami. They still scored 33 points.
Mm-hmm.
I find the line movement interesting because if you go back to that game where Texas A&M played Miami, they
Mm-hmm.
opened as a 5.5 point favorite, and that line got down to 2.5 before kickoff, and obviously we saw Miami blew them out of the water as an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
So now in this game, at the beginning of the week, it opened up at the same line, 5.5, but the spread
Mm-hmm.
has gotten up to 7.5 now. So
Hmm.
it seems like a lot of people think this is the spot where Texas A&M is going to show up and blow Auburn out of the water. So it should be an exciting game for sure.
Well, and we talked last week, just to put a button on the Auburn thing. Um, we knew that Cal let points on the field. I mean, they left points all over the field in that game. They could have beaten Auburn, but they didn't, and so we'll see how it goes against Texas A&M. And that game, of course, is a noon start. So here we go. We're going to go to the
And
3:30. Oh, go ahead.
that's the important thing, right? They found a way
Uh huh.
to get the win over Cal in,
Mm-hmm.
in that game. Just like we saw, Florida State was looking ahead to Clemson,
Right.
and they struggled with Boston College, but they
Mm-hmm.
found a way to get that win. What team didn't do that? Cincinnati at home against,
Mm-hmm.
little brother Miami, Ohio there. So
Mm-hmm.
that was, I think that's just something that really separates the good teams from the real teams.
Well, you're going to have a bad day, and if you can weather that bad day and come out with a victory, then that's a whole lot better than than not. So yeah, I agree, 100%. I think you're right on.
That's what separates the top 10 from the rest. That
Sure.
the top 10 finds ways to win those
Hmm.
games, whereas teams that are good but maybe not that good, they can squander them sometimes.
The old saying that the difference is that the good teams find a way to win and the bad teams find a way to lose. And I think what we can say about Cal is they found a number of ways to lose in that game against Auburn last week. All right, it cannot be stopped. The train is rolling. Colorado, Coach Prime is 19th ranked Colorado. Buffaloes head into Eugene to take on number 10 Oregon on 3:30 ABC. Joe Tessitore and Jesse, former Gator quarterback Palmer, on the call. Uh, you know, there have been people. This is crazy. We now have a lot of people who are armchair quarterbacks and who are new to the sport of college football, and they're saying that the line, get this, the line is disrespecting Colorado. It's like, wait a minute, the line is an inanimate object, okay? It moves where the money moves. A line disrespecting, it doesn't make any sense. But Colorado and Oregon, this is going to be a game where, can Colorado put points on Oregon? I believe they can. Can Oregon put points in Colorado? Absolutely. Um, I don't. I think this will be a fun game to watch, but I don't think Oregon's going to lose this game.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I agree the line is disrespectful, but I think the opposite. I think it's disrespectful for Oregon
Mm-hmm.
because look, I was not high on Colorado coming into the season,
Mm-hmm.
and they've surprised me. They've done a lot better. They're a much better
Sure.
team than I thought they were going to be, and Deion Sanders has done great things over there to put together a 3-0 start to the season, considering how many players he brought in the transfer portal and all these new faces with the name tags on, as you always
Mm-hmm.
like to say. So that's very impressive what he's done. Now
Sure.
that being said, he's played three nobody teams. Like they beat TCU in their first game of the season. That's a team that had three returning starters on
Right.
offense, and we don't even know what they are. They beat Houston, but Houston looks like awful this year. So we don't even know what TCU is next. Then they beat Nebraska. Nebraska has zero offense. And then they needed overtime to beat Colorado State. Colorado State's better this year, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not a good team.
Right.
And we have this team ranked at 19 going into Oregon now. Now this is going to be the game we're really going to find out what Colorado is. And as
Mm-hmm.
you said, their offense has been good. I'm sure they'll put up points in this game, but that defense is atrocious. And there's a reason why Deion Sanders is bringing in Warren Sapp to help out. He's identified the problem on this defense. And Oregon's just, they're more physical and they
Mm-hmm.
like to score points for fun. There's no way they don't drown them in this game. And I think the line should probably be closer to 30.
It's funny too. I mean, you've got Bo Nix, who truly is a legit Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, and the concept of him losing to Colorado, it probably is not something he relishes. So I'm thinking Oregon's like, to your point, I think Oregon's thinking, wait a minute, we're getting disrespected. We're everybody's watching about Colorado. What the heck, they're not paying attention to us. Okay, let's take this team out there and take them to the woodshed here.
See, that's the other thing that's a great point, Jim. Everybody, the whole story the first 3 weeks has been Deion Sanders in
Right,
Colorado and how, oh, we're disrespected. They're disrespecting us. It's
right,
personal. But
right,
you're right. Oregon's ranked number 10 in the country. They're a better team than Ohio State. They're like, and Ohio State's number 6.
right,
Okay, Notre Dame's number 9. They're probably better than Notre Dame as well. So
right.
absolutely, already they're being disrespected in the rankings. No one ever mentions Bo Nix in the Heisman
Mm-hmm.
conversation. They mention him in the great Pac-12 quarterback,
Right,
the great conference of quarterbacks, the
mm-hmm.
Pac-12. But they never mention him in the Heisman race.
Right.
And you got to be thinking he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. Never mind the disrespect Colorado has. What about the disrespect for Oregon? And they're going to be out to prove a point in this game, I think.
100%. All right. 15 Ole Miss against 13 Alabama. That game's going to be in Tuscaloosa. It's 3:30 is on CBS. Tom McCarthy, the pride of Philadelphia, and Jason McCarty on the call along with Ross Tucker. Um, this is a game we talked a little bit about it yesterday. Alabama still didn't have a quarterback, but they're in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss shows up, and this is Lane Kiffin, and many people think that when Nick Saban steps down at Alabama, that Lane Kiffin is going to be the guy that takes his place. If anybody knows Alabama, it's Lane Kiffin. But do they have enough at Ole Miss to beat Alabama at home? And I think that's really this is going to be a rock fight. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game.
Yeah, this is a really interesting game just because obviously you have them so close in the rankings now. But Alabama, they already got the one loss under their belt.
Mm-hmm.
With Texas, they need to win this game, especially with it being a conference game at home. They
Mm-hmm.
have to win this if they want to have any chance of going to the SEC championship. Ole Miss, obviously, we talked about how Lane Kiffin saw Steve do it. I'm sure he's going to be thinking
Mm-hmm.
the same thing about himself. But yeah,
Right.
it's one of those games where Alabama with besides the run game, they don't have much of a passing offense. But then again, Ole Miss doesn't have much of a defense, so it's going to be a very interesting game for sure, because you're going to obviously have a better Alabama defense against a very good Ole Miss offense, and you're going to have this stagnant Alabama offense versus an Ole Miss defense that does give up points. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it turns out. The game to me that is possibly the most intriguing, maybe of the entire day, is the next one up. 22 UCLA against number 11 Utah. And that game's going to be played, in Salt Lake City on Fox. Jason Benedetti, Brock Hewitt. I didn't write Brock's last name there, but it is Brock Hewitt who's going to be on the call. Um, you, if I were to tell you that that this is a game where the number 2 ranked defense in the country, in the number 1 ranked defense in the pack, and the number 8th ranked defense in the entire country is taking on a tough offensive team. I don't think many people would think it was actually UCLA that had the defense, because you think of Utah as the team with the defense. I gotta believe that if Cam Rising doesn't play in this game, I think UCLA is really being undervalued. Chip Kelly's got a really good young offense out there, and going to Utah, they got. UCLA's given up now on average on the rush 2.3 to 2.4 yards per carry, which is nothing, and they have led the conference and the country in quarterback rushing. Quarterback meaning rushing the quarterback to throw the ball or sacking them from that standpoint. So UCLA's defense is quick, and I gotta think if I'm Utah, if Cam Rising isn't playing in this game, that's going to be tough.
yeah, this is a tough game to bet unless you know the quarterback situation going on with Utah. Now, this one opened up as a 4-point favorite for Utah, and it's up to 6 now. So
Okay.
the indication is that Cam Rising is
He's
going
going to
to
play,
play
right? Yeah.
in this game, but from what I've seen and heard Chip Kelly say, they're prepared for all 3 quarterbacks in
Sure.
this game. So it is going to be, it's a totally different game with Cam Rising. Obviously, as you said, UCLA has a very good run defense, and without Rising, the run game is going to be a very big part of this Utah offense. But with Rising in there, I think it gives them a bit of a more of a passing element to it.
Right.
So. Yeah, UCLA, I mean, they haven't really played anybody in their first 3 games, and I'm still not sure what their offense is under this new quarterback. They're not even sure who their starting quarterback really is yet either. They're kind of
I think
playing
they're
both
5-star
guys in every
yeah.
game.
Their 5-star recruit, I think, is probably going to be the guy that runs the offense, but we'll see. The one thing that UCLA has, they've got plenty of film on Cam Rising. So from that standpoint, I think that's something that that'll be okay from there. But I think this is going to be a very entertaining game. It might be of all 3 of those games, it might be the closest and it might be the most entertaining. But we shall see. In that game. So UCLA, number 22 in the country. Utah, that's a 3:30 game. That's going to be a lot of channel surfing back and forth between Oregon and Colorado, maybe even Ole Miss and Alabama. So plenty of stuff going on there. Let's go to the late game, the 7:30 games. Baylor and Texas. Baylor and Texas used to be a rivalry, but Dave Aranda doesn't have really much of a team this year. And I don't know. That doesn't look. It doesn't look like a. I don't know. I just doesn't look like Baylor's going to be able to put up enough of a fight to keep Texas from going. Although, Texas has been one of Texas's issues over the past couple of years is they've played down to their competition. And I don't know. Steve Sarkisian, I think, understands that if they want to, go out in a blaze of glory, that burying Baylor would be a good way to get to number 2 or number 1 on the hit parade here.
Yeah, Texas is one of those teams where I think they're ranked a little higher than they should be. They had a
Hmm.
very good win in Tuscaloosa against
Right.
Alabama, but personally, I don't know about this Alabama team, and Texas I really don't think is as good as they looked against Alabama. They haven't looked good in their other two games. You know,
Hmm.
they struggled to pull away from Rice at first. They were held to a lot of field goals in that game.
Hmm.
And the same story last week against Wyoming. So
Sure.
I'm not sure. And as you said, you know, they play down to their competition, which we saw in those two games. And this is one where I don't think Texas is the number 3 ranked team in the country. Now, they're going up against a Baylor team that's missing their starting quarterback, your backup quarterback's banged up, and nothing
Hmm.
has gone right for this Baylor program this year. So
Right.
the spread's only about 7.5, I think, in this game.
Hmm.
So Texas, I would think clears that, but yeah, I think Texas is getting a lot more respect than the team they actually are.
Well, in fairness to Baylor, I mean, Baylor played a pretty good game a couple of weeks ago against Utah. I mean, they were representative, for most of that game. Utah pulled away at the end, but can they do the same thing against Texas? It's going to be interesting. And of course, this is the last Texas Baylor game that they're going to play for a number of years now because they're going to the big. They're going to be leaving to the SEC, and Baylor, of course, is in the Big 12. So Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak, and Tom Luckenbill on the call for ABC on that game. So then we go Iowa, number 24 at number 7, Penn State. That's CBS's A team, Nessler and Danielson on the call of that game. You know, I was okay, but man, playing at State College is tough, and Iowa not scoring a lot of points is a tough situation as well.
Yeah, I think Iowa's going to be fine in this game. Penn State is another team where I think they're ranked a lot higher than they should be ranked.
Uh,
Um, they're good, but they're not top 10 in the country by far,
mm-hmm.
and you know they struggled a lot against Illinois.
Sure.
Illinois, they scored 30 points in that game. But Illinois, look at their defense. They've given up basically 30 points in all of their games this year. So I don't know how much you really want to weight that win on the road in Illinois. It was a very good win because
Sure.
it was obviously Drew Aller's first road
Mm-hmm.
start with this team, and now they're coming back home. But they're coming into this game as a 14 and a half point favorite, and they just barely covered against Illinois, who's a much worse team than this Iowa team. I know the Iowa offense has had problems, but I believe in Cade McNamara. He wasn't this bad at
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, and I think he's going to get better as he learns the offense. Now this is going
Mm-hmm.
to be his 4th game in the offense, and
Mm-hmm.
2 touchdowns is a lot for a team with a very good defense that
Right.
scores points as well. This is a defense that they force turnovers and they score points. So I think this game is going to be, as you put one of the earlier games, a rock fight,
Mm-hmm.
and it's probably going to be a lot closer than the 2 touchdown spread you're getting for Penn State.
What's the over under on this? Because I would think this is not going to be a high scoring game. It's going to be a bit of an ugly game. I
Yep,
think Penn State will win, but I don't think it's going to be. Style points are not going to be part of this game.
39 and a half, Jim.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Ooh,
And
I don't know.
that's come down a bit because I think it
Really?
was at 40 yesterday. So
I don't know. That's. I mean, he's kind of right. I think because I just don't. I don't know about you. I just don't see these two teams, putting up points. In what is likely to be an ugly game. Also, weather on the East Coast is going to be terrible. It's going to rain probably throughout that entire game. So that's not going to be pleasant either. But the only reason I'm giving Penn State just the win here from me is because they're playing at State College, It's a tough place to play. I don't think Iowa's won in state college for a number of years, so I. It's more me thinking state college, the weather, and the fact that Penn State just has enough, you know, to to get through the Iowa game again in what is unlikely to be a very, or more, I should say, more likely to be an ugly game in that regard. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, Penn State definitely does have the better offense at
Hmm.
home from what we've seen in these games, so they
Right.
should edge out the win. But I think 14 and a half is a little much for them to clear.
Yeah, 100%. All right, here's the game of the day potentially. Number 6 Ohio State, number 9 Notre Dame. NBC's got the call on the game. It's you know it's there hasn't been a game this consequential at Notre Dame since the convicts and the Catholics played back in the early 90s when Jimmy Johnson's number one Miami Hurricanes came into South Bend to take on Lou Holtz's number two Irish in a game that I will forever believe Miami actually won, but that's okay. Ohio State, Notre Dame. You and I both think Notre Dame's a better team at home in this game against an Ohio State team that's still trying to find a quarterback.
Yeah, this is one where both teams are undefeated. Obviously, Notre Dame has the extra game under their belt. They're
Mm-hmm.
4-0. Ohio State's 3-0. But both of these teams really haven't played anybody, so
Right.
it's gonna be the first real test. It's going to be a huge test for Ohio State because they have to see Michigan at the end of the season. So if
Mm-hmm.
they lose this game, then good luck winning against Michigan. You might end up as a two-loss team by the end of the year. And Notre Dame, they're an independent school, so these games are even bigger for them because
Mm-hmm.
they don't really have a conference schedule to go on. They have
Right.
to rely on winning these big games against some of the higher ranked teams in the country. So, and especially being at home here, if they lose, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to have no shot at the college football playoff. So if they want any chance of being in that conversation, they need to win this game. They need to win it convincingly.
Right. You know, and to your point, Notre Dame's big game after this one would be USC, and that doesn't come until late in the season. So, it's going to be an interesting game. I know a lot of people are telling, I mean, I get hit up from a lot of Ohio State fans who are telling me what a fantastic player Marvin Harrison Jr. is. I, I don't think either one of us have said that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a fantastic player. The the problem is not Marvin Harrison Jr. The problem is somebody has to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison
Yeah. The
Jr.
funny thing about wide receivers, Jim, is someone's got to get them the ball. So.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to win with a wide receiver if you don't throw them the ball. Now, yeah, Grant, you can do jet sweeps all day long, but I don't think that's not going to be the way the Ohio State and Notre Dame that game ends up. So it'll be an entertaining game. We got three games there that are entertaining. We got a few more here. Oregon State taking on Washington State in a game
The
that we
Pac-2
the
championship.
back to championship game on Fox. Jeff Levering and Mark Hyrick have got the call on that game. Uh, I don't. Oregon State, to me, has been again. They might be underestimated, underrated, whatever you want to say. They've got. Well, of course, you were talking about the Clemson quarterback you didn't like last year. He's now tearing things up at Oregon State.
Yeah, he's definitely playing a lot better than how he played at Clemson. But
Right.
yeah, Oregon State they have a very good team. Obviously, they're on the road in this game though, and it is very hard to go into Pullman there and beat
Right.
Washington State. They already have the big upset over Wisconsin at
Mm-hmm.
home earlier this
Sure.
season, and Cam Ward might be one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire conference there because everyone's talking about every other quarterback in the
Yeah.
conference. But Cam Ward, he's been tearing it up for
He
this
has.
Washington State
Yeah.
team. Now, Oregon State's a 3.5 point favorite in this game, and personally, I think the game could could go either way. I think Oregon State has the better team, both offense and defensively, but Washington State at home is going to be a tough team to beat, and
Mm-hmm.
they could easily pull off an upset in that game. So the best bet there might be just to take the 3 points because it could end up being a field goal game.
Right. Or not take the game at all. One of the
Yeah, or
two.
just stay off. Sometimes the best bet is not betting.
Right, exactly, 100%. Arkansas LSU. This one is on there. It's for some reason, it's ESPN's national game with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. This to me is, I mean, Arkansas has played games that they've looked really good, and then they've played games that they've looked really bad. And then you've had LSU that's played little games that really look good and games that look really bad. I don't think LSU is the 12th best team in the country. Just no. Are they one of the top 25? Yes. Are they the 12th? No. But they are ranked there. It's tough to play in Baton Rouge. I've been there many times. I can guarantee you the last place you want to be is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, playing, if you're an opposing team, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on a Saturday night. Their fans have had all day to get prepared, and you know what I mean by prepared. If you know anything about Louisiana culture, they will be ready to rock and roll and loud and boisterous and all that. So it's not easy, but what's the line on the Arkansas LSU game?
Yeah, so this one, I believe, I just have to double check, but I think it's a 17 and a half.
LSU?
Yeah, LSU is around a 17-point favorite. I just need to find the game. It's a little under. Yeah, 17 and a half. I just want to make sure it wasn't 17 on the dot. But yeah, 17 and a half point favorite here at home. Obviously, LSU is coming off the big win against Mississippi State, 41-14. I'm still not sure about this LSU team this year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they had the loss to Florida State. They looked awful in that second half, but that
Right.
might have just put them on a tear.
Sure.
They beat Grambling State, who really that's not a big win at all. But they scored 72 points in that game, and then obviously they looked really good in their first conference game on the road against Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think this Arkansas team has been very disappointing this year. They were definitely supposed to be a lot better than how they've looked. Obviously, they had the loss last week at home to BYU, and you can say what you want about, oh, it was a look ahead spot to this game with LSU, first conference game of the season. But at the same time, we've talked about how the good teams find ways to win those games, and that was something Arkansas didn't do, and they gave up 38 points on defense, which is not good at all, especially when you're going to be on the road now against a much stronger offense. And it's not even that game either. It's if you go back to their game before they lost to BYU, they were at home to Kent State. Central Florida blew this team out of the water like 56-6, and Arkansas struggled to score 30 points in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sold on this Arkansas team.
Yeah. And LSU, as I say, playing LSU in Baton Rouge is tough. I put Charlotte and Florida on there only because, point of personal privilege, I'm a Florida Gator fan, so I get to do that. They will probably beat Charlotte. If they don't, well, then they're in trouble.
Now, are they going to cover, Jim?
How much is the spread?
How much do you think the spread is? This is your team. Come on.
I'm going to go 20, 21, something like that.
28.
They're not going to score 20. No, I'm not. Look, I love
right away, Jim's like,
I love my Gators. I love my Gators. They're not going to score 28 more points than Charlotte. I say that because I say that to say this. Okay, Charlotte, God love them. Charlotte has not shied away from playing P5 teams, and I think Florida's their third P5 team that they played this season. So they're not a great team, but they're not a bad team either. And I think Florida will win, but by 28 points, that might be a little much. Graham Mertz he's still got a ways to go to win my approval here. I will say this: I didn't put my USF Bulls, the other team that I follow, and Rice on there just because I didn't. We only have a certain amount of time, so there you go. And speaking of that, we got to move on. So we'll fly through these. SC Arizona State, that shouldn't be too tough for SC to go out over there. Although Arizona State is getting better. That's a 10:30 game on Fox. You're probably saying, wait a minute, didn't we just see Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman's name? And the answer would be yes, you did, but it was on Friday night, and they were in West Lafayette, Indiana. So they are clearly going to hop the plane and be in Phoenix for this game. Arizona State and SC. Number 8, Washington is taking on California. That shouldn't be too tough for Michael Pennick and that team. California, as we said, left a lot of points on the field at their place last week. Going to play in Seattle against Washington is not a pleasant task for California. Dave Fleming, Brock Osweiler on the call. Kent State, Fresno State. That's should be an interesting matchup for Kent State, coming a MAC team coming all the way across country to play Fresno State. Davey Ryan and Dante Kelly is on the call there. I didn't type his name in. My apologies to Dante for that. So anything in those three games pop out to you there, bud?
Yeah, I love Washington minus 21, or you can even get it at minus 20 and a half some places. I think they're going to blow Cal out of the water. Cal's a good
Yeah.
team, but they're much better at home. And, Washington, that last week was a big test for me, not because they were playing against Michigan State. I know Michigan State's not a good team, but it was the spot for me. They traveled across the country into another time zone, won that game handedly, 41-7. Their offense showed up, their defense showed up. I think that was a big game. Now they're coming back home to start the conference schedule. They score 40 points in almost every single game, and I think their defense, from what we've seen from this Cal offense, their defense is going to have no problem shutting them down. So I like Washington to clear the 21 in that one. Don't have much thoughts on Kent State, Fresno State. The USC game, Arizona State is at home. They always play them tough, but they're missing Rashada here. They're missing their backup quarterback. I don't really think they stand much of a chance in this game, but I don't know if I would take USC minus 35 just because they
That's
play
a lot of points.
Colorado next week in that 9 a.m.
Right.
That 9 a.m. morning scrap. So that's going to be one they're probably looking a bit ahead to, obviously, because they probably want to kick Colorado's teeth in.
Yeah.
And
still make brunch. Yeah.
Yeah, and Arizona State's only saving grace in this game is if they're down by 50 at halftime and USC decides to pull all the players.
Yeah, there you go. They play the cheerleaders. The thing that sticks out of all these three games to me, and I'll make it real quick, is Washington Washington needs and wants style points, and you get style points by hanging big numbers on teams. And I think that they know that, and I think that Michael Pennick knows that, and I think that what they're going to go is, we feel that we meaning Washington feels they're better than SC, and they honestly, I think they probably are as good, if not better than Texas. So they're going to hang. If they can put a big number on California, they're going to put a big number on California. So we'll see. Anyway. That, my friends, does it for our colleges. I mean, we're gonna fly because we want to get we want to get Amedeus out of here before it's Sunday. So here we go. Pop on Sunday. These are the early games on CBS. New England against the Jets. Buffalo, Washington, Denver, Miami, Indianapolis, Baltimore, Tennessee, Cleveland. I don't see a game on that thing, on that list of games that particularly excites me. Anything there for you, buddy?
Nothing tickles your fancy there, Jim?
Not really. I mean,
maybe the Commanders game for me.
What, with Buffalo? I mean,
Yeah.
I think the Commanders I think they're going to give them a good game, but I don't know that they can beat them. We'll see.
Yeah, I like the Commanders to cover that 6.5, just because Buffalo's coming off the 38-10 to win at home with Bills Mafia behind them, but they struggled in week one. We've seen him struggle on the road going back to last season. Josh Allen has a big turnover problem.
Right.
This offense is humming with Bieniemy for Washington. Obviously,
Hmm.
they're always a much better defensive team under Ron Rivera when they play at home. I can see them giving Buffalo some trouble in that game. So
There you go.
that might be on upset alert. Might be one to watch there.
Here's the Fox games at 1 o'clock. New Orleans at Green Bay, the Chargers and the Vikings, the Falcons and the Lions, and Houston and the Jaguars. Um, you know, to me, the game that jumps out there is Atlanta Detroit. I just think Detroit is much better than Atlanta. I think Atlanta's kind of skated by the first couple weeks here. I don't know. Anything that jump off on you on this one?
Yeah, those I think all those first three games anyway are going to be very
Oh, they're
exciting.
gonna be great. They're gonna be good. There's no question. You're right.
Yeah,
100%.
I think so. Green Bay opened as a 2 point favorite, and it's come down to about like 1.5 now. Money's coming in on
Wow.
New Orleans.
I'm surprised.
I think we're going to find out what the Saints' offense is this
Hmm.
week. We know they have a good defense, but if Carr goes in there and leads them to a winning Green Bay, the Saints team might be a team to watch.
Hmm.
The Chargers Minnesota game is probably the most interesting to me, obviously, because you have two very good teams that are 0-2, and someone's
Hmm.
going to have to go 0-3 after this game, unless they tie for some reason, which is totally possible with these two teams that always find ways to lose. But yeah, this is going to be a very interesting one because I think both teams are just going to be desperate to not go 0-3 basically.
Right.
And yeah, that Atlanta Detroit game is definitely one to watch. Obviously
Hmm.
Atlanta's the hot commodity with all their
Right.
young star players, 2-0 to start the season, which
Hmm.
played both games at home.
Hmm.
We'll see what you got on the road. Detroit's going to be pissed after losing to Seattle at home.
Right.
This one opened at 5.5, and now it's down to 3
Mm.
for
Okay.
Detroit. So yeah, it's an interesting line. A lot of money coming in on Atlanta. So
Jeez. Okay.
yeah, and then that Houston Jacksonville, you probably don't even need to watch that
No, that's one that friends and family.
one.
The Chargers Minnesota. I'll just take but a second on this one. To me, it's really which quarterback shows up, right? It's Justin Herbert for the Chargers. If he shows up, then they can win. If Kirk Cousins can find a way to not lose a game, I think that then they're there with that. I don't mean to be harsh. I like Kurt; he's a good guy, but I don't know.
You could
Do
even say which coach makes the least dumbest decisions.
well, we don't have time for that. Those are guys that they stay up late to figure out ways to lose. Okay. Here's the late games on both CBS and Fox. There aren't many because there's
And then
oh,
they're all clunkers. Every single one.
Carolina and Seattle. Again, that's a friends and family game.
That's actually an Andy Dalton start
You're
for the
serious?
Carolina Panthers. Yeah, Bryce Young is
Oh,
out with an ankle injury, so we're getting the red rifle on Sunday.
well, yeah, he may be misfiring a lot. Chicago at Kansas City. Look, no, they're not going to win. Dallas and your Arizona Cardinals.
No,
Dallas,
Jim, no, they're not
no,
going to win.
no. Okay, I was going to say,
Just like you said with Chicago.
okay, save your time. No, nothing to see here,
They're
folks.
both 12.5 point
Right.
dogs.
This
So.
is this at 4 o'clock might be a time to go take a look, watch a baseball game.
Yeah, no, they're real clunkers. They
Yeah.
are real clunkers this Saturday or Sunday.
God,
Sorry,
there you go. All right, here's our night games.
the
We'll get
Monday
to
night games are better.
yeah, the Monday night games are better. Although Pittsburgh and Vegas should be interesting.
Yeah,
That's
that would
Sunday
sound
night
bad.
game. So we'll talk about the Monday night games on Monday. They're just there. You can we're giving them to you so you can do research. Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and the Rams and the Bengals. So, all right. Well, that takes us through anything's real quick because we want to make sure that people know it. There's a full slate of soccer on the weekend. We've got most of the games will be played in the MLS on Saturday with two games being played on Sunday. The interesting game on Sunday is a 7:30 start with Orlando entertaining Inter Miami without Messi playing, and then the late game on Sunday is Austin hosting the LA Galaxy. So there's that. So again, uh, full slate on pretty much a full slate on Saturday, and then on Sunday it's just those two teams playing each other. From that standpoint, if you want to know about stock car racing, go see Rye Cabe. He's got all the information on that. From that standpoint, he's good to go over there. I think that's pretty much all of it. So anyway, my friend, we'll get you out of here. Any final thoughts before we move on out and give people an opportunity to rush quickly to your site to get more insights on it?
Yeah, you can get my plays at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. New site. Go check it out. I already have a bunch of college up for Saturday. I will have some NFL posted later tonight, and I will have
Hmm.
my Premier League and all my other
Wow.
soccer plays posted tonight as well for Saturday at least, possibly even Sunday too. So yeah, you can go check that out, and I'll just leave everybody with one last piece of thing going back to the college football. You can get Michael Penix to win the Heisman at a pretty nice price right now, and I think he might be the guy this year.
Well, it wouldn't be a surprise to me, and I'd be happy to see it happen. Let me real quick look up and see what we got here. Foxy has one quick question for you. Look forward to seeing Brumley get a win tomorrow in a relegation 6-pointer game. So
Yeah, it's
there
going
you
to be
go.
big 3 points for Burnley. They're really looking for that first 3 points of the year. Man United has lost 4 of their last 5, so
Yep, there you go. I
that'll
mean,
be one to watch for sure.
100%. All right, well, Amadeus, have a wonderful weekend. Y'all have a wonderful weekend too. I will be back on Tuesday. Monday is a religious holiday, and then we will, for many people, so we will take that one off, and we'll be back on Tuesday. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Tuesday. Be well.